Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Progressive Overload Podcast. Have you ever thought about strengthening multiple areas of your life at the same time? Then you've come to the right place. Our goal is to help you identify ways that you might need a progressive overload to break through those plateaus and keep you growing.
Welcome, everybody, to the Progressive Overload Podcast. We are looking forward to having you with us today. Thank you for joining us, no matter where you are or how you're joining us. We are so grateful that you have taken a few minutes to join us at the table today. We are in episode 12. Is that
11.
correct?
Yeah. No, it's 12. Yeah.
Episode 12. I got it right this time.
This will be episode 12.
Episode 12. And we're looking forward to a great episode today. We are going to be talking about something that is near and dear to all of our hearts, whether we like it or not. It is the concept of time management. Oh, and everybody takes a collective gasp. Why? Because it's one of those things that we have to do. We have to do it whether we like it or not, because our schedules dictate kind of where we go and what we do and how we do it. Yeah. And sometimes we are in control of those things and sometimes we are not, as we have learned. So it's going to be a fun day, and we're glad that you've joined us. I'm here with Dustin Moore and Joe Copeland.
Hey, what's up? As
always, and we are glad that you are with us. So let's jump right in. Joe, I think you have a probing question for us today.
Yes, probing. This is, I love would you rather questions. We have there's a game that has just all these different would you rather questions, and it's a great way to just engage in a deeper conversation with someone and kind of understand, kind of get to know them a little bit better, and kind of, I don't know, they're really fun, kind of, like you said, brain probing type exercise or conversations.
So before we ask the serious question, let's ask a fun one.
You want to go with the fun one?
I do. It's just more fun that way.
I trust Adam's question more.
I don't know what he's asking.
It's more fun.
Nervous.
It's more fun for us as people at the table, and more fun for the listeners. So, would you rather have really stinky breath for the rest of your life or a runny nose for the rest of your life?
Oh man, I already have both.
Yeah.
No. Stinky breath or runny nose.
As someone who constantly has a runny nose, not right this second, but yesterday was miserable, I would way rather have stinky breath.
I'd rather have stinky breath. Here's why. People don't want to be around people with stinky breath, or they at least want to keep a distance. That is a barrier for people to approach me, and I love it.
So you use your halitosis as a form of social distancing?
There we go. Yes.
Yep.
Is that what we do?
I've gotten such a...
Down with that.
I've become known for my allergies, and it's hilarious. Like, it's become my identity, and it's funny because somebody on Facebook, an old high school friend, made a Facebook comment the other day, and it was something like, hey, do you remember when the teachers would make Joe go into the hallway to blow his nose because he was so distracting? And 4 or 5 of my old classmates were like, oh man, I remember him doing that. I'm like, yeah, that's become my identity.
Hi, I'm Joe, the allergy guy.
I know. Now people around the office, so it's transitioned from high school to my professional life, I'm now known as Typhoid Joe around the wellness center.
How exciting.
Thank you to Tyson for coining that name, and it has stuck.
Don't worry. We'll make sure to get you a tissue box here at the table next week.
So maybe drop a comment on the platforms that you follow us and see if you can answer that question. Yeah. Maybe you don't want to be like Joe. Maybe you want to be like Dustin. I don't know. I would take neither. I don't know. But the fun part about these would you rather is we we used to make our students answer. They had to. You have to commit one way or the other.
Yeah, because in theory, when you're asking these questions, like here's the real question: if you choose one option, does the other never happen?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Because I would rather have allergies never again for the rest of my existence.
Truth.
That's true. Okay, so I don't know. I guess you can pitch it however you want if you're creating the game.
Here's my argument for why you should pick Team Dustin.
Wait, are we saying gum won't even help if you choose?
I don't know that it helps.
I don't know.
You can brush your teeth for an hour and still have just terrible breath.
That's the question. Is there outside things that can help treat the symptoms of the issue? Anyway, okay, Joe, what is your probing question?
So, would you rather number 2 answer this one also in our community group?
No, I would not rather number 2.
Would you rather know when you are going to die or know how you are going to die?
Oh.
That one's tough.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
You can't take both, right?
No.
So you have to commit to one.
You have to commit to one.
I can't imagine knowing when. But if I knew how, like say
No.
I have my answer.
No.
Okay.
So, first of all, if I know how, that does not mean that I know when.
Correct.
And therefore, I spend the rest of my life until that moment happens paranoid about being in situations where I'm going to die because I know how it happens, right? If I figure out that I'm going to die in a plane crash, I'm just going to avoid flying, right? Like, I'm never going to want to be around or near planes because I don't know when it's going to happen. However...
but you have to at some point.
However, if I know when, then I know how much time that I have to make an impact around me before it happens.
That's very true.
So there's my answer. When.
What about you?
I'm gonna go with how, just because Dustin went with when, just so that I could be different.
Yeah, right.
If I know how, then I will figure out. Like Dustin said, it will affect my life and my time and my strategy for my life. Very much so, because if I know how, then I will try to stay away from how.
Yeah.
But knowing that eventually the how is going to catch up with me, because otherwise I would live forever, and no one does that unless they're part of the kingdom, and that's on the other side of eternity, which we're not to that point yet. So I'm going to go with how, just for the fun of it.
I think I would also choose how. Knowing when, that's just way too much of a burden, I think. Do you think...
Imagine knowing how and it being the most embarrassing thing it could possibly
diarrhea.
be. And you're just like, oh. And then you just get to know that that's how it's
that every
happen.
time you had diarrhea, there's like, okay, this is it. I'm gone.
This is it.
I will never eat Taco Bell again in my life.
I'm sorry, listeners. If you're still with us at this point,
I've said that word way too many times.
We know
already.
you are.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So do you think Jesus, before when he was in the garden, sweating blood?
Yes.
Do you think before that moment, do you think he knew that he was going to ultimately die on the cross?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Ultimately, that's one of the reasons why in that moment, he's 100% God and 100% man.
Yeah.
In that moment, he asked if there was any other way that it could that God's plan could be carried out.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so I fully believe that he knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and that obviously affected his life.
Absolutely.
Because he knew when his day was, and he did not waste a single moment.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
So how would we've talked about, would you rather do one of those two things, and how it would affect your schedule? What are some other things that we need to discuss when we're talking about managing our priorities when it comes to our fitness, when it comes to our diet? What are some of the things we need to discuss today?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to first, before we discuss in depth, talk about some truths that time is not promised. Every single second that we live is a gift. And there was a quote, I'm not going to tell you who said it. A man who dares waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. And I jokingly say that I'm not going to say who said it because it was Charles Darwin who had that quote. Not the greatest theologian of our time, we know that. But just because he has a really bad rep, understandingly, that doesn't mean that what he said does not come true there, because time is precious, and we have to learn how to approach the time that God has gifted us with respect and with what's the word? You
have to steward it well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's something that you never get more of.
Right.
Right, and it's constantly going by.
Right. It's constantly passing us by, and if we don't approach it with some form of reverence, and maybe that was the word you're looking for, you kind of have. That's why we have a schedule. I think it's why we put things on the calendar. It's why we plan for things, and sometimes those plans are good, and those things get carried out, and sometimes they do not.
Yeah.
But you're right. Time is precious, and it should be valued as such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that goes, we want to know our priorities and have them listed and and understand what our priorities should be. And when I talk about priorities, I really like to use this cool metaphor. We've talked about the big rocks in life, what rocks are important. The big rocks being our health, our fitness, our nutrition, our sleep, our relationships, big things like that. And then we have smaller rocks, which is like the supplements and these tools like fasting and different types of approaches. Those are little pebbles. And then so I'm going to change that metaphor a little bit and talk about, imagine our 24 hours day as a those big mason jar, and that's the time that we fill. And our goal is to have these big rocks and fill this jar with our big rocks. But if we fill that jar full of tiny little pebbles first, and we put a bunch of sand being time spent on social media, time spent doing unimportant things that aren't related to our big rocks. If we put all of those things in first, then we're not going to have time or space to put our big rocks in there. So when I'm talking about time management and priorities, we have to fill that jar with our big rocks first.
It's fun to compare this to our illustration of the rocks that we had discussed before, because in comparison, what we had discussed before was something that it's like set, right? Like we know the value and importance and how big and small those rocks are. Yeah. This case is different. Not necessarily because we fit the sand in first, but sometimes we put such a heavy importance on a small thing that it becomes a larger rock than it's intended to be. Yeah,
it takes up more space than it should.
It takes up more space than it should. Because as we look at our time, and this is one thing I love, I do this, it feels like I do this every few months, right? Is I look at my schedule, I sit down, I look at it, and I almost audit my time. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I overall look at what I do on a daily basis, what I need to get done, how much time I'm devoting to each task, and I try and figure out where I can be more efficient and where I'm spending too much time. Yeah. And for me to take that big picture look every once in a while is for me to say, okay, this rock is getting more space than it should. Yeah. This isn't getting enough. And I can shift gears a little bit. But as I'm going through and looking at that and looking at how much I'm spending on each thing, I start to realize where I'm putting my priorities. I start to realize where I'm putting my emphasis and where I'm using the majority of my time. And as a result, you start to see what you guys think. You start to see what's important to you. Absolutely. Really. Because that's where you dig your feet in and spend the most time.
Right. So I'm thinking about this time audit thing, and I'm thinking about doing a little math. Okay. So if you're following along at home or in your car, wherever you are, and however you're following us, think about 24 hours. That's what everybody gets. Some of us wish we could get 20. Some of us wish we could get 25, but all of us get 24. How much of that time is spent? Okay, just big rocks. Okay, sleeping. Okay, you take about 6 to 8 hours of sleep away. So you take that out of the equation, then you're at what, 18 hours? Roughly. And then you take away like what other things are just already taking away from that 24-hour time that you don't even think about considering in a 24-hour day. Yeah. You think about time in your car, or you think about time
commute.
Yeah, commute.
Yeah.
2 hours
so you're taking 2 hours, so you're down to 16 hours. Then you take away time from eating.
Oh, yeah. Eating,
okay, so eating. So you get 3 square meals a day. Most of us do that. You take 3 hours out of that. So now you're down to 13 hours. So you got
8-hour workday.
And you're already into your 8 hours, and then you get a couple of hours left for free time and fun time and other important rocks like your family or your fitness and so
it goes so quickly. And that's why we have to be able to budget our time well.
Yeah, and it does lend itself to a word in Scripture called stewardship, and we're not going to go to that point just yet, but you think about how little time you actually have.
Absolutely.
When you do a time audit, or you don't look at it from that 30,000 foot view.
Yeah.
And, you know, scheduling and time and calendaring things and even doing an audit of time is kind of foreign to me because I'm one of those guys that just kind of rolls with it.
Yeah.
If it gets done today, then that's fine. If I absolutely have to have it done, there are some things that I absolutely have to get done in a week. But a lot of things I can put off or, you know, reorganize or reprioritize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I do that, you know, pretty well, I hope. And I think my family may think differently, but I feel like I do that pretty well. But for some people like Dustin who actually keep a rigid, not rigid, but there's some boundaries to the schedule kind of moments. That's kind of foreign to me. So it's good for me to sit around with people that do that. And I try to put people in the room with me when I'm making decisions that do that and do it better than I do.
Yeah.
So
in context of health and fitness, because, you know, that's most of what we talk about on here, half of it at least. How do you guys approach making your workouts a priority in your schedule?
Yes.
For me personally,
yes.
When I'm looking at my weekly schedule, before the week even gets here, I know what days I'm going to be in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's predetermined before the week even starts. I know typically, lately it's been a Monday, Thursday, Saturday routine with maybe some extra stuff on Tuesday, Friday, or Sunday.
Yeah.
Just depending on how the week goes. But I know I'm at least getting those 3 times a week of being in the gym where I'm hitting it hard. I'm doing what is scheduled and planned out for me.
Yeah.
And I place those in first.
Mm-hmm.
And once I figure out the day, then I can, as those days get closer, look and see, okay, well, I got to get this, and this done. I'll make sure I can take that time to be there at this.
Yeah.
Because I know how long I'm going to be there. I plan it out very intentionally because I know it is a major and important thing for me. For me personally, I know that I need to fit that in because when I'm in the gym, when I am making it a point to exercise and to watch my nutrition and prioritize these things that are really my focus in bettering my physical health, I find myself more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself not that I am just like powering through everything really quickly, but I find myself mentally able to work through things in a much more efficient and less distracted manner to where it affects all areas outside of that.
Right.
For sure. I mean, that's the benefit of time management is, you know, reducing that stress. You're more productive. You know, I'm a big procrastinator, so and if I'm intentional about mastering my schedule, it definitely helps my procrastination.
And I think it deserves to be said too, though, that's who I am. That's how I am. I'm a very structured person when it comes to a schedule. But that said, things happen and schedules do change.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you hit a mental block on a Monday and you're like, all right, I got to get it. I got to go get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I need to power through that workout because that's going to give me the mental reset I need to finish the day. Yesterday for me, it's, we talked about that a little bit yesterday, but so you have to be flexible in a sense because sometimes things happen and you have to adjust your plans. And I think the key point to that is when I run into those situations, I don't know about you guys, but when I run into those situations where I'm not able to get it at the time that I really would usually or would like to, I might move it, but I don't cancel it.
Right.
Yeah.
I never remove it. It's going to happen.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I just might have to adjust.
Point. Yeah. I know, Adam, you know, you are there almost like a rock at 8 o'clock every single morning that I'm there, or earlier.
Early, yeah.
Props to you.
Yeah, so I guess that's something that you've just made it kind of an immovable appointment pretty much in your schedule, huh?
Yeah, and I guess it was sometime after I had COVID, and I realized, you know what, I'm going to need to make this a priority. And so it's kind of like one of those you said it about right. It's movable, and it can be moved. It's not quite in concrete, but it is definitely in some wet sand, and it's hard to move.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that I have made a priority, and a prioritization of my schedule had to become that workout time.
Yeah.
And it changes, and sometimes I go for 40 minutes, sometimes I go for an hour, sometimes I have other meetings and I get 20 minutes, and but I'm there and I get what I can in out of it. And so what about, and I'm going to switch gears on you guys for just a second, what about our diets? Do we look at time management in the same regard with our food? And I know for the last couple of weeks, I was thinking, told you yesterday, Joe, I don't think I've changed my relationship with food at all, but I really have, because we, for the last couple of weeks, have been chaotic. Our schedules have not been our own, and we have done things not out of character, but out of the norm for our schedules.
For sure.
And so it has changed our diets as well. And so my body was beginning to crave a salad, and which is kind of weird to say, but I needed some broccoli or something without cheese, even just a raw stick of broccoli. I just needed it. And so I think when you look at time management and food, how do you guys approach that in your daily lives or in your week?
If I'm on point, I am planning my meals on a Sunday usually.
Okay.
And if I'm really trying to be dialed in, I'm gonna know pretty much every meal for the most part that I'm going to have for that whole week. And so, at my work, we have a cafe on campus. And so I have their schedule, and I will go see, okay, what's their menu for this week? I'm going to eat this on this day. This isn't a good option for me, so I'm going to bring my lunch that day. And I just kind of plan out that way. Then, of course, we talk about the benefit of meal prepping. That's part of the pre-planning that's going to help you so much during your week, because on days that I don't have a plan are days that I'm going to listen to what my tummy wants instead of what I have planned and in my schedule.
Yeah, sure. And see, I lean myself more into that meal prepping as opposed to planning things out. As structured of a person as I am, that's one thing that I haven't considered, is actually taking a full, okay, I'm going to plan out everything I'm going to do this week. I'll do maybe one meal, maybe two, just get a rough idea. But for me, Saturdays are key.
Okay.
Saturday is the day that I meal prep. I will package meals, because Sunday I'm busy all day, and I'm busy in the office Monday through Friday typically, to some extent. Saturday is the day that I can just set aside and say, okay, I'm going to prep everything. I'm going to plan things out, get everything packaged. Typically, that looks like I do a lot of baking. I don't do a lot of grilling, a lot of extra stuff like you guys do. I've seen some pictures of you guys meal prepping. You're crazy. But I'll get like a disposable pan, right? And I will bake like a bunch of chicken breast. Okay, seasoned up. Just throw it in the oven. While it's baking, I have lettuce and tomatoes and different vegetables, and I'm weighing everything out, and I have those set aside. That way when the chicken gets out, cut it, let it cool a little bit, cut it, measure it, dump in a container, lid on it, done.
Nice.
Yeah, so for the people that might be listening that don't have that much structure or don't feel like you can do this, let me kind of tell you what works for me. I'll take a whole bag, like a 5-pound bag of frozen chicken, and cook it all. And then for the next week, doesn't matter what meal it is. It could be lunch or dinner, or sometimes I'll grab a piece of chicken for breakfast. Who cares? Yeah. But it's done. Yeah. It's there, and I can do a whole lot of things with chicken, or beef or whatever that I've made. But I don't necessarily plan out every meal, but I plan out some sort of protein or some sort of main course for a meal, and then I can come home and kind of give myself some freedom to go, okay, today I want to cut it up on a salad. Today I want to make a fajita with a low-carb tortilla. Or today I want to do something, I want to put bacon and cheese on. I don't care. But it's all with the same base. And so if you just do that, if you get it put together, it becomes easy. And then you feel like you're giving yourself a little bit of freedom in that moment to go, I get to choose what I want. I don't have,
That's
I'm not.
So, oh man, that is so smart. I don't know how you could do it, because this is completely a personal issue. I see that. But I can see myself having issue with control and moderation.
I see.
And that's why I end up packaging things the way I do, is because I know this one container, that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
That's good.
Well, that's, I have the mentality that if it's a good protein and vegetables and healthy foods, I can eat as much as I want of it. So that's, it's when I'm starting getting some of the unhealthy stuff, that's when that problem gets into trouble. As far as exercise for kind of the way I approach it as part of my schedule is the biggest rock that I have in my jar is, barring my relationship with Christ and my pursuit of becoming closer to Him, is my family. And so I know that the time I spend with my wife and daughter is of utmost importance to me. Yeah. And so that's why I choose to wake up at 4:45 in the morning and go get my workouts before workout in while they're sleeping. Because if I want to just get off of work and then go home and work out, that's an hour and a half that I'm missing of time with my daughter. And because she goes to bed so early, if I'm not home, at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, then I get 1 hour a day with her. And that's just not fair. I hate that so much. And so that's why if I'm going to get it done, I'm going to get it done in the morning before anything else happens.
And knowing you guys, your workout routines as far as scheduling goes, and a little bit about your personal schedules, as we've done life together, that makes so much sense for you guys. Mm-hmm. That's not something I've ever had to worry about. And so it's not something that I've ever really considered being a part of the equation.
Yeah. Like dishes?
So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't like dishes.
I noticed.
It's okay. You noticed?
Well, everything is throwaway pans.
You're right. You're right. And I have no remorse either. But no, that the family factor is not something that I've had to concern myself with. And so I can see how that would be a big rock that you have to carve time away to make sure that it fits, because it is so important.
Yeah. And it's hard for me because I value sleep so much. And I if it was up to me and I had a free schedule, I would sleep 12, 14 hours a day. Oh. But
no crazy,
way. I have to spend that time with my wife after my daughter goes to bed, and sometimes I have to sacrifice and go to bed a little bit later so that we can spend that time together, and have to wake up early. And it's a sacrifice. I'm not trying to sound like a martyr at all, but it's something that I know. It's something that I place on the utmost value, and that's why it's so important to me. And
that's something that I respect and admire about both you guys. Is you saying that, and we've had this conversation before about Adam. When you're at home, you're at home.
Exactly.
You were present and there with your family.
I love that. Yeah.
And I respect that so much.
Same.
Yeah, and it's hard, and it is difficult sometimes whenever there's doing what I do, and you guys are the same. You're never quite off duty, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely not.
And so it's difficult sometimes to go, no, that's going to have to wait. And I'm so grateful for my wife, because she fights hard for that time as well.
Yeah.
And she'll tell me sometimes, no, that can wait.
Yeah.
And so that's very helpful to me as a person that just wants to please and wants to make everything right and just pour into people and time and relationships. It's hard for me sometimes to give it away, to pour into the people that I care most about, in being my wife and my children.
That's how pastors drown. Wow. That's how pastors drown, is not having those boundaries.
Right.
Real talk. I struggle saying no sometimes. I struggle with that, but I've gotten better about it, because there is an importance to self-care and to
you gotta
learn
to say no.
And it really is. It is a lesson that is vital for us to learn, because we can't do it all. And there's been times where I'm in the gym and I'm in the middle of my workout, and somebody texts me and just asks me a question or needs me to do something. I'm like, in the gym right now, get to it when I can.
Yeah,
And
that's a good start. That's a good start of learning how to manage your time and putting boundaries up in your time.
Yeah.
So
that's a big reason. That's a big reason why I work out in the town that I live and not in the gym that I work in 8 hours a day, because I'm only just a person there.
Right.
If I try to work out in the gym that I work at, and there's people coming up to me, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Blah, blah, blah. And so I'm not able to just be present in my workout. And so that's a big reason I do that.
I understand.
That makes sense.
What about people that are listening that just want to know how they can improve their time management skills? What would we say to those people?
And so obviously first we have to start by writing down your priorities. What are your big rocks? What are the things that are most important to you?
Plan.
Yeah, and plan your schedule around those big rocks. So we put those big rocks in the jar first, and then the smaller things, the smaller pebbles and sand we can pour in later.
Yeah.
I'm not a list maker.
You're not a list maker?
No.
Well, you can make a mental list, I think.
One of the biggest things that has helped me, and it's just a small thing in terms of mastering my schedule, is I've taken up bullet journaling. If you guys have any idea what that is.
Like 9mm?
Yeah. I was going to ask what caliber, but
yeah. For those of you who are listening, maybe you know a little bit about bullet journaling. If you do not, and I encourage you guys, if you seriously don't know, take a look at it. Take a look at it. It doesn't take much time to set up. There's no real method to it. It's all personalized. I can show you my bullet journal, and I've changed methods like 6 different times in the last year, just to kind of fit my what's going on a little better. And I kind of have finally found a method that I'm enjoying using right now. But it just helps me to track everything I need to get done. Makes me more efficient in being able to work through those lists and keep up. Okay, I'm working on this. I'm about to finish. This is what I'll do next. Type things. During our 60-day challenge, I used it as a checklist. Like I literally had a checklist of everything I had to do every day, and it had like a Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday, and I would go through every time I finished that gallon of water, check. Every time I finished my reading, check. Like
I like that.
It was such a big thing for me, and that goes in line with planning. That is one method of planning. For those who want to be a little more intentional about it, because I feel like the more that you put pen to paper in planning these things out, instead of mentally saying, I think I'm going to do this on this day, the fact that you have it in writing, there's something substantial about it visibly being in front of you, and I feel like there's a lot more intentionality behind it because you're seeing it take precedence.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, let me ask a question about this, because we've talked about this word in other forms and other ways and the reason that it's beneficial, but something I have not really ever considered or thought about is the fact that I get most of my things done with either people or with things that in my job that I am most accountable to. Okay, so I'm thinking about the word accountability with time.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to report to you guys at all and say, by 10 a.m., I need to have these 3 things done.
Yeah.
But if I did, I would have them done. If I knew I was going to turn around and say, I'm going to report back to you and let you know when I'm finished this. And maybe that's something that would be beneficial to someone like me that I don't really do lists. I don't really... But if I realize somebody's counting on me to do something or expecting something out of me, then I will work to make sure that it's done.
That's a big driver.
I almost see that as like what I do with my writing things down and in my journaling, whatever. I'm not writing journal entries, but it's just a simple list or thing to look at that is almost me keeping me accountable for what I need to get done,
right.
and doing it in a timely manner.
You said the word a couple of times a while ago, the word intentional, and that's one of my favorite words. I love that word, and it's a great word to live by, and it's a great word to keep you from filling your jar with a bunch of sand. Being intentional with your time, intentional with your relationships, that's a way that you can stay in control and stay and keep you growing. I loved this. I was a part of a kind of a outreach team of the church that I used to go to, and one of the things that the pastor challenged us all with is writing down 10 names of people that we felt God wanted us to reach out to. And I carried that list around with me everywhere I went. And at least once a week, I was intentional to contact that person and just, hey, how are you doing? Or, hey, do you want to go to lunch? And being intentional with growing those relationships made massive impact, and not only in my relationship with them, but their relationship with the church. And we kind of use that as a way to just stay intentional within, the church, basically.
I see the intentionality that you put behind things or put into things as you growing within that area.
Yeah.
That is what pushes and helps you to become better, perform better, whatever in those areas. For me, a lot of that has started to become, I am not a morning person at all. I despise mornings because my bed feels comfortable, but it is what it is.
Man.
But I've had to almost master my morning time of I have to fight through that. And that's where like the lists, the planning, these things have come into play of when I'm in the morning mode and my mind is just not mentally engaged. I'm able to look at that and kind of center myself on, okay, I'm going to prioritize and just focus on this one thing. And then typically by the time that one thing is done, my brain is up and going in a sense.
Yeah.
So that's why making those lists, those daily schedules, those to-do lists, like Joe said, the people to contact type lists, those things can be so important because really it's not so much that they take the time to be able to make those things, but the benefits of having them long term are so much better.
I like the mornings.
I know.
I'm one of those weirdos.
Hey, this is the spot where I learned to say no.
I don't know that that's how that works.
Yeah, when doing my planning for what I wanted to talk about, is one of the most common tips was master your mornings. If you wake up and you make that list of the most important things that you have to do that day and freaking knock it out before noon, and you'll have and then you can take care of your smaller things. The last tip I wanted to talk about is so important, especially in the younger generation. Yes, that includes me and Dustin. Probably not as much Adam, but is our iPhones and our Android phones, and they have incredible ability to set time limits on them.
Listen, Adam, it has nothing to do with us being younger generation. It has everything to do with the fact that you've already mastered this. Like Joe and I have talked in depth before about, man, Adam gets home and that phone goes away because like he is locked in to where he needs to be.
Yep.
And like I say that jokingly and I semi exaggerate, but semi
because it is part of it's true.
You do have like this time where you set limits on yourself in that regard. And the benefits of doing so in general are so big.
Yeah.
I've started to use screen time on my phone just to track how much I'm using it. I'm not going to tell you what it tells me.
Dude, I know, but like if we did the math a while ago, and we said this is how much free time you have during your day.
Yeah.
If nobody should be spending more than an hour scrolling through Facebook a day,
Sure.
But even though I hit that on my time limit, I spend more than an hour a day scrolling mindlessly through Facebook, filling my jar with sand.
Yeah.
And it's sickening. And I used to have the time limits on my phone, and for some reason I took them off. Probably
so I don't have the time limits, but I do have it set up to track.
Yeah.
It is a big thing. It's something I do need to work on. But for me, it's so weird because I see all those numbers, but that also includes the time that I'm managing the church Facebook, the different Facebooks, because I do a lot of social media management for different groups and people, entities. And so
that's what I use as my excuse.
It's the time of me engaging with all of those, and if I take that time away, there's probably still a big number, but it's not as drastic.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. But yeah, my numbers are skewed a little bit.
Yeah.
Like my phone may tell me that I'm on it for 6 hours a day. Well, 2 hours of that is phone call meetings talking about camp.
Yeah.
Then there's an hour that I've used to dedicate to social media for all these different blah, blah, blah. And this is me sending text messages to students, and this is me planning things. Like, there's so much. There's not really, like, it's not like I'm sitting there for 18 hours a day going, oh, I'm just going to scroll through. Oh, hey, that's a cool post.
The thing is, technology is a big part of our day, no matter how you slice it. And just because I'm not looking at a phone doesn't mean I'm not looking at a screen somewhere. Yeah, it's either, and it may even be the television. You know, that used to be what happened.
Sure.
You know, and so we may be sitting as a family watching a television show, but we're still engaged together as a family. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes it will. And there's a good passage of scripture I wanted to share with you guys from Psalm chapter 90. It says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And I think that last part of that, as we are learning to number our days and number our schedules, if you want to go that far, is so that we gain a heart of wisdom. And that wisdom comes in and go, yeah, I can say no to that. Yeah, I can say yes to that. Because everything that you say yes to, you're having to say no to something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so,
would you rather?
Yeah, and that's basically where we started is it's would you rather do this or this? And it comes down to how you would structure your time when it comes to that passage of scripture.
Sure.
And so there's another passage of scripture in Ephesians 5 that says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise but as wise. And there's that wisdom again, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. There's a lot of things that can take up our time that are trivial, and we pursue them like they are not trivial. And we should probably be more cautious with that. But
for sure,
I'm sure there's a sermon in there somewhere. I just think it's a good point to make that we should be looking after the things that have eternal value and not, this carnal nature that we live in. This for the moment. You know, it's fine to make 60-second rice, but it's not fine to make 60-second just about anything else. It should have an eternal value to it. And so if you begin to put those things in perspective as big rocks, does it have an eternal value to it? Then it might change how you look at your schedule.
I automatically have more respect for someone, especially my age or Dustin's age, that does not have social media. I already, like, at that point, I want to be your friend because I respect you more.
I don't like it because I can't find anything out about you.
Can't.
I know, and I use the same excuse that does. And sorry, I'm going back to the phone thing, but I use that same excuse as I have to run my fitness center Facebook page, and now we have the podcast page and the group, and which is growing massively, which is so much fun. Side note. And I want so bad to just delete it and never have to think about it again. Yeah. But I think I'm going to. I got it right. I mean, just talking about this, I'm feeling guilt, not condemnation, but conviction of I spend too much time on my phone. And so that's something that I definitely have to make.
From a different perspective when we're talking, and we'll back up from the phone specifically and approach the screen issue with time. Screen fatigue is a real thing. And it hits hard coming from somebody who has spent what would be, I guess, an extraordinary amount of time in front of a screen. Like, I don't even want to begin to describe how much time I've spent in front of screen between work and, like Joe said, the guilt of scrolling through Facebook endlessly and everything I've done with esports and hobbies that I have that partake of me being in front of a screen. You can physically feel at a certain point that fatigue set in your eyes, in your body. And you have to rest from that. And you have to be able to rest from that. I have a friend who loves to reads on like Kindles and things like that. And he and I were talking at one point, and it's so funny how some people can't. It's almost like they can't read if it's not on the screen.
Yeah, that's a weird deal.
They'll pick up a book and they'll turn a few pages and they have to check their phone.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But if they had like if they were to switch and use like a Kindle app, they can just endlessly
Yeah.
read, no interruptions. And it's so we've conditioned ourselves like that.
There's been I'm in the wellness space, and there's been a whole category of wellness arising over the last couple months or years, maybe this last year, called digital wellness. And there's digital wellness companies being built and teaching, methods to, manage your digital health. And so that, as that grows, I think that would be a fun, we could do a whole topic on that.
Yeah.
A whole episode.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for being with us today. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope that you have taken a moment to figure out what it looks like for you to master your own schedule. We would like to help you in any way that we can, so drop us a note on the social media platforms that we are on, and let us help you in any way that we possibly can. And seek out wisdom, seek out things that are eternal, and stay away from top-of the
Thanks for listening to the Progressive Overload podcast. We're honored to be a small part of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or are interested in sponsoring our efforts, please feel free to reach out via email. Find us at progressiveoverloadpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.
And as always, you can help us reach the masses by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And then check us out on Facebook and Instagram to follow our own personal journeys and get an inside look on our day-to-day lives. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.